Howdy. Trying to be a good girl and drink hot tea instead of coffee right now. But the coffee is calling to me. So I know I need the herbal tea, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. Oklahoma has been pretty the last couple of days, except for the ice crystal lines across the sky. Yeah, we almost got blue for a little bit. It was awesome. I've been kind of in and out a little bit, but yeah, there's been so much going on. So this video may be a mess. Okay, there's a couple of different things. I have not even, the computer's on. I have not even pulled up the browser yet. This is going to be interesting. Okay, just to say the least, it's just going to be interesting. So let me pull up the browser and see where we can start. There's a couple of things that just kind of on my mind. I have been uh I should start one thing at a time. Okay, one thing at a time. All right, let me share this video with you. Where'd you put it, Dawnita? There it is. Oh, no. Yeah, there it is. This video, I don't know these. I know of this ministry. I don't follow it closely. I have a friend that follows it. Let's see if I can go here. And I'll try to make sure that I have a link below. But I have a friend that shared this video today. Okay, now let's see if I can get Zoom to pick up that window. Oh, it did. Awesome. Good. I want to pat the computer. Okay, so there's this video, I can't remember, Passion for Truth Ministries. That's what it is. Okay. So I got about 11 and a half or so minutes into it. And I'm like, the video is good. Okay, the video is good. Um, he does a good job. But I had to say something at this point because he was saying that he's talking about the covenant and the law and Romans chapter 7 and what it's talking about. And it's talking that we're free from the guilt and condemnation, guilt and condemnation of sin for breaking the law when we are saved. We're not free from the law. The idea of being free from the law is what pointed out our sin, our problems. Okay. The law was you're not being kind to each other, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not, just various things like that. You're not loving your neighbor as yourself, and you're not loving God first above all, right? That's how Yeshua narrowed it down. That's what the law is. It's loving God first and your neighbor as yourself. There's no ceremonial, ritualistic, all of that kind of stuff. There were certain, you know, ideas on how the priest should handle things in a ceremonial way, right? But if you even look at those, you can see that a lot of that is things that we should be paying attention to as well. Like if you're climbing up and down a ladder, make sure you got britches on under your skirt, okay? It's simple, just simple stuff, right? And if you've had a funeral, you need to take some time off. If you are on your cycle, you need to rest. There's just different things like that the law, it's not ceremonial, it's not ritualistic, it's not what people tend to think it is. It's having barbecues together as a community, enjoying one another's time, and making sure that you get the rest and recuperation that you need in certain circumstances. Okay. And how to, you know if you've been healed from things. So anyway, he did a really good job. But once he got into about this area, like I said, around the 11-12 minute area, he's talking about how the covenant is like a marriage contract. And he said that the marriage contract wasn't in effect until Moses, and that's not right. Okay. He's thinking in a Gentile thinking here, Hebraic thinking. The covenant, the contract was signed at the betrothal, not at the marriage. The marriage was like we're going to have with Yeshua, the marriage supper of the Lamb. That's a big celebration. Everybody gets together. Everybody, celebrates the marriage, and then it gets consummated. Okay, but the betrothal is before that, and the betrothal is when the actual contract is signed. And I brought this up to my friend, and he said, well, yeah, that makes sense because with Abraham and Isaac's marriage, when Rebecca came, when the servant brought Rebecca, they were considered married, and he just took her in and they were married. So even before she met him, the contract was done. The servant took the contract to Laban and the family and contracted her. She agreed to the contract and brought her to Isaac. So, um, as far as we're so many, uh, most, I'd say most. I don't like putting people in a box, and but most teachers today, preachers, teachers, whatever, um, tend to, especially whenever they're talking about Torah stuff, they tend to forget Genesis. They want to start at Exodus. And it's like Genesis is a bunch of sweet stories and lessons learned, but the actual law doesn't actually begin until Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, you know. And that's not true because when Adam and Eve sinned, it was right there. Our Creator told Adam and Eve, because you have done this, this will happen. And he brought in the promise with that because he told the serpent, the seed, you and the seed will be against each other, and you will hurt the seed, and the seed will hurt you. Okay. So that promise of the covenant that Yeshua was going to come and fulfill was promised there. And whenever I brought this up to my friend, he's like, yeah, you're right. It's like layers of a covenant that are here. Okay. So with Adam and Eve, there was a layer of the covenant. The first lamb was slaughtered for them to be clothed, to cover their nakedness, okay, to cover their sin. And then when Noah and the ark, he already knew what the difference between clean and unclean animals was. This is way before Moses and Mount Sinai, right? He already knew. God said, take 7 of every clean and 2 of every unclean. Well, Moses knew what that was. It didn't have to be spelled out for him. So that was already there. That was a layer in there. And there were promises. After, he put the rainbow in the sky and there's promises. So that's another layer of the covenant. And then, and then Abraham, and Abraham had that covenant. Wow, the major thing that God did with him, where he had him sacrifice the animals and had a stream of blood, and then our Creator knocked him out and walked through it in a covenant, and that is very interesting if you can find somebody that talks about how that was a specific like contract, blood contract being done there that Yahweh himself did, and came down and walked through the blood, how important and how, serious he was at that point. So then that's Abraham. So you've got Adam and Eve, and then you've got uh, Noah, and then you have Abraham. And you have him talking to various people along the way, right? And then you have Moses and the actual like writing down of the law. And this doesn't mean that there weren't things written down beforehand. They didn't just all of a sudden learn how to write when Yahweh wrote on the tablets with his finger. Okay. They already knew how to write. Moses was very well educated. So writing was already a thing. It was already a thing. As a matter of fact, I believe that the Book of Enoch was brought on the ark. Just because we don't have a copy of it that is that old doesn't mean it's not. Okay. So that's just me. I have no proof, but nobody has any proof that that didn't happen. Okay. If they did, they're not going to tell you that they have that proof. Right. So, anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. The rest of what he says in this video is really, really good, but it does kind of frustrate me with things like this that people don't, he's going into Torah and Hebraic teaching, but he doesn't still understand it all. Not that we're all going to understand everything, right? And I don't want to be nitpicky here, but then anyway, this is part of a series of teachings that my friend suggested and said was really good. Um, so I'm going to try to go back and watch them. I think it'll be good, but and the idea that churchianity today has got the idea that Yeshua came and he threw out the law, and they're in trouble today because of it. We're having trouble today because of this. Number one, you've got all of these man-made denominations that he never said for us to do. And most of them have been corrupted. I'm just going to say it. They, if not all, have been corrupted and infiltrated by the enemy. And then you have the whole Zionistic thingy where people think that the priests have got to come over here, that the rabbis have to come over here and get genetically modified red heifers in order to start their third temple sacrifices, and that has to happen before Yeshua can come back to get them. That's ridiculous. The idea that Yahweh would want us to have genetically modified meat offered in his name just does not make any sense to me. And there's beautiful red heifers all over the place. So yeah, I just, and I have a hard time believing that the people in charge over there right now are actually who they say they are anyway. So I can't say much on that. I'm surprised my last video is still up, or the video before the last. I'm surprised it's still up. I did not monetize it because I really thought that they were going to take it down, but they haven't. Of course, they haven't shown it to very many people. So if you haven't watched that, please go back and watch it, about the 6 million, and share it with anybody who you think might be the least bit interested. I would appreciate that. Le doggy is unhappy. Who knows? Anyway, so I wanted to bring that up because I thought he was going to be talking about a woman's place in the church type of thing, and we've been talking about that lately. And I don't know that he really even brought that up, but I wanted to talk about that because it's something that we run into pretty regularly. Some of us that women who have our faces on the internet and are talking about Bible things. Oh, a woman's not supposed to talk in church, blah, blah, blah. Well, this isn't church. And my husband and the other women that I know that are on here doing this, our husbands want us doing this. Um, Paul doesn't feel, he's very Mosesy. He does not feel comfortable talking in public. He can talk all day and all night to people about nearly anything, but he's not comfortable talking in a public setting. And he says that I'm good with words. I don't know that I'm always good with words, but here he is, he's coming. But that's what he says. So he wants me to do this. So first of all, I'm doing it under the authority of my authority. And second of all, I ran into a verse, and I should pull that up. Let's see. I'm recording. Let's see if I can find this verse. Spelling it wrong, probably. Probably. Yeah. Nope. 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 See if this gets it. All right. Here we go. Yep. Found it. All right. Let me share again. All right. So if we look up the Nazarite law, we have, I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the full chapter, Numbers chapter 6. When either a man or a woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite to separate themselves unto the Lord. Okay. Women also did this vow. Okay. And if you look at what happened with Samson, Samson was separated for a Nazarite vow at conception. Okay. Before conception, actually. Um, so and it to do things for the Lord, right? Let's see if I can go back to that. It's a vow of separation. There's a particular purpose in this, right? Let's see. And they told his parents, the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, right? Um, and to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. He had a specific ministry involved. Okay, so I've got a double thing here. Is we know about Deborah in the Bible who helped Boaz, and yeah, women who ministered, women who did things that I gotta go get the dog. I'm gonna pause for a second. I'll stop the screen share. Okay. Okay, the puppy has been reunited with his person. Paul came in the wrong door and he was at the other door barking at him and didn't realize he had already come in the house. Anyway, okay, so we've got these women who did things throughout scripture, right? And there's a couple of things. There's the big thing that there's just been for the last, what, 15 years or so about women's ordination in the church. And then there's the big thing on the other side that women aren't supposed to do anything but take care of the home. And it's funny how women who really preach that women aren't supposed to do anything but take care of the home also have online presences. So there's that. And then, they have a blog, they're on social media, they're preaching. They are. And they're preaching that every other woman should only be concentrated on, dishes, laundry, and diapers. So anyway, and then you've got the ones on the other side that want to be preachers and evangelists and whatnot. Okay, I on the preacher and evangelist part of it is number one, those I there's part of me that I don't have anything really there to say there because the ordination in churchianity today, I don't see a biblical precedent for. Okay. To be ordained, let me look that up. Oh, get online. Let's see. Let's pull that up and share. Okay. To ordain means to appoint or admit to ministry of the church, decree, enact, place, order, arrange, prepare, consecrate, designate. Okay, let's look up consecrate. Establish, related, ordained, ordaining, preordained. Let's see, foreordained. Okay, let's look at consecrate. Consecrate, to make, declare sacred by certain ceremonies, rites. Let's see, to make holy, devote. Okay, and then let's look up anoint. Am I spelling it right? Nope, there's only one in. It knew what I was talking about. Yay. Smeared with oil. There we go. No, it can't have two. Earlier was two N's. You can tell I read really old books because a lot of my spelling is really old spelling. An anointed one is a consecrated one. So consecrate, anoint. Okay, if we go back to um, Bible Gateway here, and we go to ordain. Okay, continual burnt offering. So a burnt offering is ordained, and Jeroboam ordained a feast. So a feast was ordained. Here, ordained a feast. A feast was ordained. Burnt incense was ordained. Seer did ordain their set office. An office was ordained. Ordain a place for my people. Places were ordained. Okay, are you getting this? People weren't ordained. Like priests. Okay, here's one, and he ordained him priests for high places and for the devils and for the calves which you made. I think this right here is like bad, right? Let's look at this. For the Levites left their suburbs and their possessions and came, and Jeroboam and his son cast them off from executing the priest's office to the Lord, and he ordained him priests for the high places. And okay, so bad deal. Okay, that was bad deal for people being ordained. Instruments were ordained by King David, ordained upon their seed, upon all such as joined them, according to the writing. Seed. This is an Esther. 2 days according to the writing. I think this is talking about ordaining the day of Purim. Yep, Purim, which is coming up March 13th and 14th, 13th, 14th, something like that. So Purim, this was a day that was ordained in the Bible, unless you believe that Esther shouldn't be in the Bible. Because I had somebody say, "Oh, Purim's a pagan holiday." It's like, what? No, it's not. Um, no, this was a day of remembrance. I don't know. Anyway, ordained his arrows. So hopefully this helps you understand what ordination actually is, Old Testament wise. Okay, now let's look up New Testament. Let's look ordained 12, that they might be with him. So here he's ordaining the apostles, the disciples. Okay. So and I had somebody complaining about the strong being a Mason and Strong's Concordance being a bad thing. Whenever I'm looking up these words, this is a lexicon. It's more than just the Strong's Concordance. It does have that in there, but it has more than that. Okay. And this is what we have available right now. This is easy. So, and this is why I look through like the whole thing, not just the Strong's part of it. Okay. So if you don't want to pay attention, I don't speak Hebrew. So this is about as good as I can do. And modern Hebrew and ancient Hebrew are a little different as well. So, and he appointed to make do the 12. And this is the word that is used in the King James as ordained. And it just make, manufacture, construct. It's not the same word, right? He just made them disciples. Okay. Let's go ahead. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you. So let's look John 15:16. On. 15, 16. You did not choose me, but I chose and appointed you. Okay. This is a different word. So this was 4160. This is 5087. To place, to set, to lay, to appoint, to establish, to put, to place, to fix. Same basic thing. To make, to manufacture. So we're placing things. Okay. Does that make sense? To make, acting. If you look through all of this. Formed, performed. Okay. Committed, conceived, falling down, laying down, making, placing. Okay. Setting down, sinking. There's nothing in this that is saying that this has to be a special ceremony, that you have to go to a special seminary, anything like that. Okay. One must one be ordained to be a witness with this. Let's see. Which was ordained, and he committed to preach that he which was ordaining. Let's look up Acts 10:42 and just see if it's the same thing. Oh, Acts 10:42. He ordered us to preach, solemnly been appointed. This is another word completely, a whole nother word. So here in the Greek, we've got 3 different words. We've got this one, to manufacture, construct, act, cause, do. And then we have this one, to place, set, lay, appoint, establish. And then we have another one, completely different word, to determine, appoint, designate, set boundaries, separate, mark off, determine, appoint, designate. Okay? Does this making some sense here on how, and these words are like determined, they're translated differently. So the whole ordination thing, I would just sit here and say, there's not really a biblical precedent for a formal ordination at all. Okay. And especially when you're talking about man made denominations, because there's definitely nothing in the Bible that says that I want men to make denominations of my church based on their preferences or understanding of my word. Okay. Mm-mm. No, that's not there. So when a woman is fighting for ordination, like a certificate of ordination or an ordination license in a particular denomination of a church, that to me is pride because you can be anointed, just like we were talking about with like the Nazarene. And I'm just using the Nazarite vow as one way that, I mean, women served in the temple, served in the tabernacle, well, outside the tabernacle, served in these various ways for a long time. They served. And you don't have to be ordained to serve. And we should all be serving. Okay. We should all be serving in one way or another, whether we're on the one side and we're serving via dishes, laundry, and diapers, and there are seasons for that. There are definitely seasons for that. Or if we're on the other side of it and we're, like Amy Carmichael or Gladys Alward or Corey Ten Boom and serving his people in different ways, in different aspects. Okay. They're those women did what needed to be done. Okay. And if you have not heard of Amy Carmichael, Gladys Alward, or Corey Ten Boom, I encourage you to look them up. Um, Amy Carmichael and Corey Ten Boom both wrote their own books. And Elizabeth Elliot wrote a book about Amy Carmichael that is very good, A Chance to Die. Excellent, excellent book. I don't know if Gladys Alward wrote her own, but there's several, biographies about her that are really good. And there's some for children that you can read to your children about them. So, you know, yeah, yeah. So whenever people come into the comments and they're like, well, women shouldn't be teaching, it's like, oh, dude, there's nothing that said that a woman shouldn't teach. Whenever it's saying teachers, preachers, teach, preach. Oops. Um, teaching, preaching. He went, let's see. Cease not. Whenever it's talking about these things, it does not say only men. Okay. And nobody thinks twice in churchianity today to put a woman in as a Sunday school teacher or a Sabbath school teacher, either way. These are interchangeable things. Let's look. Um, let's see. So, let's see. Pull up. Okay. Let's see. I think this is the one, or one of them anyway. Let's see. Chapter. This is where I like the ESV because it moved me over. Scan tongues. That's not the one. Um, so let's go back. Gifts, spiritual gifts, and variety is manifestation that are knowledge, healing, worker miracles, prophecy, distinguishing between spirits, tongues, okay, variety of things. These are manifestations of the spirit. I've talked about these before and how that's different than your motivational gifts. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know what I'm looking for. Anyway, my brain. That's not the way that I wanted to go. Anyway, let's just look up one of these. I don't know which one. Let's look up Timothy. First Timothy 2:7. Okay. First Timothy 2:7. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and exit out of some of these others. All right. Let's see. Teacher and instructor. Let's see. Where's preacher? Preacher. Okay. So teacher, master, teacher, meaning to teach, to instruct. Word studies, exhaustive, concordance, teachers. There's Greek lexicon. See, this is a different lexicon. It's not just the Strong's, and gives you this teacher. Okay. And then whenever you go to herald, preach, proclaim, town, like a town choir. So this would be like the watchman on the wall, would be the preacher, like the watchman on the wall, a herald, a messenger. Okay. All right. And then let's look up women. Let's see. Let's see. Trying to likewise. See, women are told to be teachers of good things, to teach the young women to be sober. Okay. Great. Both men and women. They were baptized, both men and women. So, speak. Okay, so because this is the one that usually people uh, let your women keep silent in the churches, not permitting them to speak. And if they learn, for it is a shame to women to speak in the church. Okay, this was a specific situation. Let's say younger, I will therefore that younger women marry and bear children, guide the house, and give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. Okay, so this isn't against women speaking. Okay, so you have this. Let's just pull her up in context. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, and as in all churches of the saints. Okay, for the women to be keeping silent in a congregational setting in this particular situation, because I mean, you can see how much we see this somewhere else. And anytime you see something in the Bible, you want to look for a few witnesses. Let's see. Yeah, here you're speaking like the foolish women speak. Okay, it's not saying that women shouldn't speak there. So you got this one place, one place. There's not another witness in the rest of scripture that says women are supposed to stay silent. Um, it's this one place. What was happening to these people? What is the context? What is happening to these people at this place, at this time and place? The church is being persecuted. Um, they're Can you imagine how scary It would be. I mean, we're kind of getting to that point. I'm feeling it. Okay. The the lib babies think they're scared to death because of the new administration and they're all going to die in the next 4 years, right? Well, from my perspective, the last 4 years, I've seen more threats on my person and other people like me who do some of the things like I do. I've seen more threats in in the last 4 years than I've seen in my life. Okay, so they think they're being threatened, but I don't think they really know what it is. Some of the things that has happened to me over the last 4 years, I think would curl their poor little toes. Okay, I'll just say that. Um, it is not, we're not living in a time of peace. We're not living in a time of peace between ice crystals being sprayed all over the top of us and the poison in our foods. And I can go so many different ways with this. There is a war being waged against us. Whoever it is, we know it's the enemy, right? Because it's principalities and powers, not necessarily people themselves that are doing it. So, yeah, we're living in a time that could be fearful. Okay. And I've heard some of, especially these younger moms who have little ones saying, what am I going to do for my children? How do I prepare for that? I don't even know what's happening. What do there's a lot of concern. And I can imagine during this period of time, there was a lot of concern. I mean, between the time of Yeshua's death, resurrection, and ascension and 70 AD, there was a lot of persecution going on, a lot. And so these women, I imagine whenever they got in, were able to get into a congregational setting, there were concerns. They would share, I'm sure they would share the news like we do today, um, whoever was in town, be it Paul or Peter or whoever was in town was going to be asked to speak and give updates, right? They were going to read letters from, the different ones that were traveling around. Um, and there would be a lot of fear whenever you heard that one of them had been thrown in jail or two of them had been thrown in jail. Whenever, even if you're hearing about the miracles and you hear that, Paul's been in prison and, these things are happening, women get anxious because we're mom bears and we want to protect our babies, right? And if you let that take over a group setting, it can become chaotic. So saying this in that context is, if you've got questions, talk to your husband about this at home, because every husband's going to be a little bit different in the way that he believes that his home should be prepared. So you need to talk to your husband about this at home, right? That makes sense to me, right? But to carry this on and say no woman should ever speak in a congregational setting ever is maybe taken a little too far, because there's been times that I've been asked to share something. I've been in church scenarios where we've been asked to give testimony during the, and everybody was asked to give testimony and say, what has the Lord done for you? Or women, some of the older women were asked to pray. They're the big prayer warriors, would you just say, oh, they're not supposed to speak? And and every congregation is going to be different. Every situation is going to be different. But um, anyway, you know, that's kind of my thought process there. And I just felt like that needed to be said in light of, you know, what was going on here, talking about the law and stuff and what was supposed to be happening. Uh, the wives and daughters of the priests helped with things. They helped bake bread. They helped, probably polish the utensils that were being used in the service. They probably helped with some of the cleaning. They definitely did some of the embroidery work on the curtains and things like that in the temple and stuff. They had ministries. And then if you go to Proverbs 31, and I know some women have had issues with Proverbs 31, saying that it's, overwhelming. But you give Proverbs 31 and you start here at chapter 10. Um, her husband trusts in her. He doesn't have to worry about things. Um, she seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hand. She's going shopping for that wool and flax. She's either going to the neighbors. One neighbor is raising sheep, and another neighbor is raising linen, raising flax, for to get her linen. She's buying the fabric, she's buying the thread, or she's buying the, raw or cleaned wool so that she can spin it herself. I don't think all of these women did all of the things, right? You had one neighbor who would who had the sheep and would shear whenever the sheep were sheared, she would wash the wool. You had the next neighbor who was going to take that wool and she was going to comb it out. And have you ever looked up a video on the process between the shearing the sheep and the yarn and the creation of the yarn for the fabric? Or it's really cool. It's really cool. So there's no sheep are hurt in it. No sheep are hurt. Okay. So you shear the sheep. One family was going to do one thing, right? Because you had enough to take care of the sheep and do that part. And then the next family is going to do the spinning, the carding and the processing of the wool. The next is going to do the spinning and make the thread. And then there's going to be one who's going to do weaving, you know, and then another who's going to do like the knitting part of it. So, however that goes, and it's going to be the same with the flax. Somebody's going to grow the flax, somebody's going to render the grass part of it. We like the seeds for other things. So, the grass part of it into, and if you've never seen a video on that, it's very interesting as well. But you render that grass into thread, and then you're going to spin it into a thread for weaving and stuff as well. So this was going to be more than one person that was going to do this. But if you're making the clothes or the belts or the head coverings, or even if it's just one thing that you're making, you're going to source these things, the materials for that, from somewhere else, along with the dye, because especially if you're doing ceremonial things, then the blue dye came from somewhere specific. And she's like merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. So she's going to go wherever she needs to go to get good quality nutritious food, right? And rising while it's yet night. I think she's outside. Yeah, I think she's outside. Rising yet while it's night to take care of her household, and maybe she needs to sleep in. I'm just going to say that. Sometimes she gets up early and sometimes she's sleeping in. She considers a field and buys it with the fruit of her hands. She plants a vineyard. So I mean, she's doing her gardening, her farming, real estate. Um, she's strengthening herself, doing these things. She's looking at the merchandise. She's got her candle at night, staying up late sometimes doing things. She isn't getting up early in the morning every single morning and staying up late every single night. Okay. Anyway, the spindle and the distaff are part of uh the spinning part um of the threads. Uh she helps the poor, reaches out to the needy. She's not afraid for the weather. She's prepared. Her family has good quality clothing to get them through winter, summer, all the seasons, right? Um, she's making herself coverings, or coming up with it. Today we go shopping, right? I mean, I sew. I'm making some trench coats right now for the family. Oh, yeah. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get through it. Anyway, you're either making these things or you are acquiring them, right? She's working. That's kind of my point. She is working. And her husband is known partly because his wife is busy doing her stuff, and there's an appreciation here of the family dynamics of what's going on. She's got her linen, she sells things, she goes to the craft shows, the markets, or whatever. This could be she's canning food. She's doing all of these things, and she opens her mouth in wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. It does not say that she is quiet all the time. Now, she may not have perpetual thick mouth syndrome like I have, because I do. I do. Why are you barking? Oh, he must have set him on the bed to get him out of the way. She seems to have short legs, and our bed is kind of high up off the floor. So his ability to jump off the bed is a little. He's quiet. He's unhappy. Here, Paul comes. He's going to save me. He's going to save me. Um, So anyway, she's not idle. She has a business. She does real estate. She is talking to people. She's doing her thing. Okay. So these people who say that women shouldn't have an online business and shouldn't be talking about Bible stuff and shouldn't be, no, this is what she did constantly. She was virtuous. She was talking kindness and wisdom. And the only wisdom we've got is from the Bible. So if I'm going to talk wisdom online, I'm going to be talking it about Bible stuff, right? Um, Otherwise, everything else that I say, take with a grain of salt, unless it's coming from here, because this is the important thing. So anyway, I don't think I near got to what I was thinking I wanted to get to, but I don't know how long I've actually been blabbering on here. There are so many things going on in the political arena and stuff that I cannot keep up. So I'm just at this point not really trying right now. We've got other things going on, and I'm trying to catch up on stuff, and it's there's a lot. So anyway, if you've got, I'm kind of hitting that season that I'm not sure what everybody really wants to hear. If you want me to go more into politics, ask me some specific questions below. If you're wanting me to dig more into some Bible stuff, then, if we have missed a cryptid that we need to discuss, let me know. Um, if there's a tin hat topic, that you're concerned about, please let me know. Um, I mean, I have so many things that kind of run through my head and go on in discussions that I'm having in the background with other people and stuff, that I kind of lose myself in the shuffle and don't and lose touch of what actually needs to be, and then there's some really popular things that go online that I'm like, well, that's been covered. But maybe I would have a perspective that you guys would like. So anyway, um, please like, share, subscribe, all of that kind of stuff, because my videos are tanking. I I think some of it may be because I'm boring. Some of it might be because I'm being shadow banned on every platform at this point. So I've been stuck at the same number of subscribers here on YouTube for 6 months or more. I don't know what to say about that. But yeah, if you guys could help with that, I'd really appreciate it. I do still have a Patreon, and I haven't been putting the Patreon link up. The Patreon I've got set on $1 a month. I'll start putting that link back up because I want people who want to support to be able to support at what they can. I've got a bunch of stuff in there. I'm not really adding more stuff to it. Um, but the membership over on my community, the group is free. Patreon's $1. The membership is $5. And then I've got a guild coming up that's going to be more, but it's going to be more hands-on. I'm actually going to be doing like some prepping with you, helping you get prepped. Okay. So anyway, that's kind of all in the mix. So I'll make sure that there's links below. I'll make sure there's a link to that video so you guys can check it out if you would like to. And yeah, I'll hopefully have something more later this week. We'll see y'all later.